immunity from criminal prosecution for some actions he took as president. The ruling says presidents have immunity for official acts, but also says not all acts are official. Trump calls the decision a, quote, big win. President Biden is looking to quell Democratic worries about his re-election bid. The campaign is putting the focus on Donald Trump, labeling the former president as a threat to the nation. Privately, the Biden's families reportedly urging him to stay in the race. Bloomberg News reports the Democratic National Committee could formally nominate Biden as early as July 21st.
The colleagues that I have spoken to have talked about focusing on making sure that we can use our hands to door knock and make phone calls and rally the troops.
Hurricane Beryl made landfall on the Caribbean island of Curacao. The dangerous and powerful Category 4 storm is with top winds of 150 miles per hour.
I've been in constant communication with all of my colleagues within the CARICOM. They are on standby to provide any assistance that is required.
Those are your headlines now. Here's a look at your weather on the ones.
Hey everybody, I'm meteorologist Nate Harrington. We're kicking off the month of July with sweltering heat across the deep south and portions of the California valleys. And for folks in the midsection of the country, few rounds of showers, storms, and even severe weather. And that's going to continue into most of this week, including the 4th of July. So the severe weather chances continue. Extreme heat for the south, and that's going to last through the 4th. And we're tracking the tropics, not only Hurricane Beryl, but we got more activity to track. All of that coming up in 10.
Making waves in the political world Monday. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Taswell. In a 6-3 ruling, the court found Donald Trump is entitled to substantial immunity from prosecution on charges of trying to overturn the 2020 election. The decision further complicates the case, which is now unlikely to go before a jury ahead of the election. Spectrum's Cassie Simeon is in Washington with more on the ruling, plus a look at what we can expect to see next.
In a 6-3 decision Monday along ideological lines, the Supreme Court's conservative majority ruled that a president cannot be prosecuted for official acts, a protection that it said would ensure, quote, an energetic, independent executive. It was a victory for former President Donald Trump, who claimed blanket immunity from prosecution in the case brought by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith for trying to overturn his defeat in the 2020 election. Cliff Sloan of Georgetown Law said the court's
It is stunning, the sweeping immunity that the Supreme Court has conferred on former presidents. It's unlike anything we've ever had in our history. And it really fundamentally changes the separation of powers in a way that I think is very troubling and very unhealthy for the country.
Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in her dissent, said the decision will reshape the presidency, writing, "The damage has been done. The relationship between the president and the people he serves has shifted irrevocably. In every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law." The justices sent Trump's case back to the lower courts to determine which acts alleged in his indictment should be considered official and which can be considered private conduct. But in a blow to the prosecution, the court ruled that conduct by a president in their official capacity cannot be used as evidence.
It's just what could possibly come in a trial.
Cassie Simeon joins us from outside the Supreme Court. Cassie, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are reacting to the ruling. What are you hearing?
Well, the former president and his Republican colleagues are calling this a win. Trump saying this is a win for democracy and our Constitution. Democrats, of course, slamming the decision. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying this is an insult to our founders and further diminishes the credibility of this court. This was the final ruling of the term. Sharon, the court is still deciding what cases to take up when they return in the fall.
All right, Cassie Simeon in Washington. Thanks. And joining me now to help explain what the bombshell Supreme Court ruling means is Professor Jessica Levinson from Loyola Law School. Jessica, explain why this is a major win for Donald Trump.
This is a major win for Donald Trump because it provides that he has either assumed immunity from a number of the acts that are alleged in this criminal complaint against him in the federal election interference case. And it is a win because, frankly, it's going to make it more difficult for federal prosecutors to prove their case. Not impossible. I think they can still move forward, but there's no two ways about it. This is a good day for the former president when it comes to at least this case.
So, Jessica, the justices are sharply divided in this ruling.
Sharply divided. And I think this really is about what are the justices most concerned about. For the majority that created this, frankly, I think, robust standard of immunity from criminal prosecution for current and former presidents, they are most worried about, I think, frivolous criminal suits against current and former presidents. And they're worried about protecting the executive. Is, I think, a worry about seeing any person, including a president, as above the law, about making a president a king, about saying that the criminal justice system cannot function when it comes to the criminal justice system cannot function when it comes to a current or former president. And so just very different concerns.
So what does this mean for Trump's January 6th case?
So it means that the case is not going to move forward before the election, although, frankly, I think we already knew that. It means that this case is going back to the trial court judge, and she's going to have to determine which of these actions are official acts for which the president enjoys at least presumed immunity, and which are private or unofficial acts which can go forward.
All right, so what does this immunity ruling mean for Trump's election interference?
So the Georgia case largely overlaps with the federal case. And for the Georgia case, it's going to be really the same question, which is in what situation, based on that state complaint, was the president acting as the president? When was he acting in his official capacity? And when was he acting as candidate Trump? And that will determine which claims can move forward.
All right, Jessica Levinson from Loyola Law School. Thanks for your time and your expertise. As Trump looks to campaign off his recent victories, President Biden's campaign is looking to reset following what many saw as a poor performance at the debate. Biden's family used a gathering at Camp David over the weekend to urge him to stay in the race. And as Spectrum's Evan Kozloff reports from Washington, many Democrats are sticking by his side.
Joe Biden has done everything he promised to do and more.
Rallying behind his candidacy on Monday.
We need to remind the American people of who Joe Biden is. A strong and capable president with an incredible record.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
All this after Biden's halting performance in his debate with Donald Trump Thursday night, when the 81-year-old gave rambling answers and at times struggled to respond to Trump's attacks.
When you get knocked down, you get back up.
Biden's campaign on Monday sought to turn the tables.
Did you see Trump last night? I mean it sincerely, the most lies told in a single debate.
Launching an ad featuring a more energetic Biden at a rally on Friday, calling out Trump for his conduct during the debate. Biden spent the weekend at Camp David with family members. The Associated Press reporting that they urged him to stay in the race.
This man is just a complainer.
Meanwhile, Trump supporters continue to capitalize on Biden's weak performance.
This is like a Rocky knockout. I mean,
those on the short list to beat Trump's vice president, including North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum and Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, hit the media circuit to criticize Biden's debate.
How could Joe Biden possibly do the job of parrying against world leaders?
And on Monday, Jill Biden, the president's wife and probably his closest confidant, posed for the cover story in Vogue magazine, in which she sent a brief statement about the debate, saying that they would not allow 90 minutes to define Biden's presidency and that they plan to keep fighting. In Washington, I'm Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
The second named storm of the season making landfall in the Caribbean. Why Hurricane Beryl is already a historic storm. That's just ahead.
Spectrum News Plus. News from storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
I never graduated from high school, breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back. We start off with temperatures for today. Numbers well into the triple digits for folks in the desert Southwest. Dallas closing in on 100 degrees early today, 97 in Houston, sweltering heat along the Gulf Coast. But how about some refreshing low humidity and cooler temperatures on the backside of a front that moved in across the eastern side of the lower 48? Greensboro, Washington, D.C., New York City, all in the low 80s. Columbus, Chicago in the 70s. Minneapolis, a very pleasant 74 degrees. Some of that cooler and drier air will be continued to be felt across the eastern part of the lower 48 as we head through our Tuesday. But we will have our eyes again peeled across the midsection of the country, the upper Midwest, the Mississippi River Valley, through Iowa, parts of Missouri, into Kansas, and Nebraska will be the highlighted center for shower storm threat and a severe weather potential too. And it looks like we're going to maximize that potential for the middle of the week on Wednesday. But Tuesday, we're going to see a decent shot at showers and storms and an enhanced risk. Northern Missouri, parts of southern Iowa, I should say, and far northeastern Kansas. Chances for damaging wind gusts, maybe even an isolated tornado, not going to be ruled out in those sections on Tuesday. And we're going to re-rack that risk and do it all over again on Wednesday too. But more heat for the south as high pressure stays basically centered right over the lower Mississippi Valley in the southern plains. 100-degree temperatures in Wichita, Dallas, El Paso, Phoenix, and sweltering heat and humidity from Houston around the Gulf Coast. And we turn our attention quickly to the tropics. Something stands out. That is Hurricane Beryl early in the season. This is a August-looking storm in the start of July. We'll talk more about Beryl, where it's going, and the forecast for the 4th coming up.
Hurricane Beryl is on the move after roaring across the Windward Islands Monday as an extremely dangerous Category 4 storm. Spectrum News anchor Carla Reddit has a look at some of the damage left behind and where Beryl could be headed now.
Hurricane Beryl made landfall Monday morning on the Caribbean island of Carriacou, which is part of Grenada. Packing 150-mile-per-hour winds, the Category 4 storm is the strongest hurricane ever in the Atlantic this early in the season.
I've been in constant communication with all of my colleagues within the CARICOM region at a political level from all of yesterday. They are on standby to provide any assistance that is required.
The storm triggered power outages, flooded streets, and ushered in storm surge flooding for parts of the Windward Islands, which include Grenadines, Grenada, Tobago, and Barbados, where hundreds of people heeded the warnings by the government by seeking shelter at one of the island's 33 hurricane shelters.
I've decided to come here
because with this weather system at a Category 4 and its location, I am not taking any chances with it. I prefer to be here, ride it out, and then tomorrow see what happens.
Landfall is far from the end of Beryl's story. Its path through abnormally warm ocean waters remain uncertain.
Beryl is going to remain a hurricane through most of the week. We could see some weakening as it interacts with land and over the western Caribbean, but still expected to be a powerful storm for the next several days.
It is still too early to tell what, if any, impact the storm will have on the U.S., but it is a storm that is ushering in a troubling start to this hurricane season. Forecasters have predicted as many as 25 named storms, the most storms the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has ever predicted in a preseason outlook. Carla Reddit, Spectrum News.
Well, summer is a popular time for a swim in the ocean, but rip currents have already drowned several swimmers this season. It's why one lifeguard is being hailed a hero after rescuing a family. Spectrum's Ariel Wessler spoke with him and has more on what you need to know to stay safe.
It's not sharks, but dangerous rip currents that lifeguards say account for the most beach rescues every year, killing about 100 people, according to the U.S. Life-Saving Association. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says rip, and it may have been more if not for off-duty lifeguard Mariano Martinez.
I have my rescue staff with me, always in my car.
He rescued a family of 7 on June 22nd at Lido Beach in Sarasota, Florida, after a storm triggered dangerous surf along the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, I had in the water 9 people, and 7 from the same family in complete distress, and 2 more people jumping in the water before me to try to help.
Despite being off duty, Martinez's instincts kicked in and he leapt into action, grabbing a rescue tube and swimming out to a group of swimmers in distress. The rip current had pulled them more than 200 yards away from shore.
They was crying. They say me thank you.
Rip currents are powerful channels of water moving away from shore as fast as 8 feet per second. In this photo from NOAA, a harmless...
These storms often create those conditions in a moment's notice. And so, we'll change flags from yellow to red pretty quickly as these storms approach.
As for Martinez, he says being a lifeguard is his passion.
I never think leave this situation in my best dream. Never. I am living, I'm in the sky.
Ariel Wessler joins us now from Southern California. Ari, what do swimmers need to know to protect themselves?
So Sharon, first off, prevention is key. Experts say never swim alone, and if possible, swim near a lifeguard station. You also want to look for red, yellow, and green flags that tell you the level of hazard, with, of course, red being the highest. Now, lifeguards say if you do get caught in a rip current, try to remain calm. Signal for help and swim parallel to the shore until you're out of the current's grip. Then head diagonally toward the shore. Place that rip currents are a danger. They can also happen in other large bodies of water, like the Great Lakes. Lifeguards say many swimmers, Sharon, will tire themselves fighting the rip current and trying to get back to the beach. That is where they run into trouble.
All right, Ariel Wessler reporting from Southern California. Thanks. Coming up on Spectrum News, a teen dancing her way into a world championship. Why she lives and breathes her Irish heritage.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference in the community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to Dad.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
You've probably seen this buzzsaw of a hurricane fall on a very tiny little island in the Lesser Antilles. This is a storm you would normally see look like in August, maybe September, in the heart of hurricane season, not on the first day of July. Beryl, a monster hurricane, a Category 4 storm earlier this afternoon. This storm will continue to churn through the Caribbean. We have some better news for folks if you're interested in places like Jamaica, maybe the southern portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, and then into the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to encounter some very strong wind shear, and what that does is it weakens these hurricanes. So yes, this is a major storm, one of the earliest, strongest hurricanes we've ever had in this part of the world, but it will weaken as it continues to move to the north and northwest. Still something that we're going to have to take very seriously, though. If you know anybody in the Yucatan, folks that may be traveling to Cancun, actually know somebody that was traveling. Had to tell them, might want to adjust your travel plans. Once it moves back into the Gulf of Mexico by later on this week and into the weekend, that's when we'll pay a little bit more attention to it for folks in places like Texas and maybe even Louisiana. For Wednesday, it's going to be a warm day across the south, but we're also going to see chances for storms again in the midsection of the country. The same areas that have been pummeled by heavy rainfall and stormy weather the last several days are going to get it once again for the middle of the week with Nebraska, also Kansas, and then into the Ohio River Valley. Folks in southern Indiana, southern Illinois, into Ohio, northern Kentucky, the possibility of severe storms there, and you're going to start to see the heat build across the East Coast again. So a little respite from the heat and humidity from the Carolinas all the way up into New England, but here it comes. Hey, how about the 4th of July? Big day. A lot of people will have the day off celebrating. The weather looks pretty good for most of the weekend. The midsection of the country, the Midwest, the upper Midwest, and it does look like maybe a few showers in the Ohio River Valley with temperatures soaring again in the deep south. That is what we're going to see all the way through this week, but Thursday especially, heat building across the east. Folks in Raleigh, 98 degrees, could reach triple digits in Dallas, a scorcher for most of us on the 4th.
If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled Donald Trump may claim substantial immunity from criminal prosecution on some acts in his election interference indictment. President Biden's campaign is looking to reset following last week's poor performance in his debates with Donald Trump. Biden spent the weekend at Camp David with his family, who are urging him to stay. Beryl is churning in the Caribbean after making landfall in the Windward Islands Monday as a Category 4 storm. And that's what you need to know this evening. A teen is now on track to become the youngest U.S. male track Olympian. 16-year-old Quincy Wilson took to social media on Sunday to celebrate. There he is. Well, the sprinter from the Washington, D.C. area will compete in the 4x400-meter relay roster at the Olympic Games in Paris. Selection comes after U.S. Olympic trials last week, where Wilson broke a 400-meter world record twice. Well, the Summer Olympic Games kick off July 26th. A North Carolina student is among the top Irish dancers in the country. Now she's ready to compete at the World Championships. Spectrum's Chelsea Floyd is with this teen dancer to see what it takes to reach the top.
For the last 8 years, 17-year-old Faith Madison has lived and breathed
like 6 days a week in the studio and then also at home.
Right now, she's practicing for this year's U.S. Open Championships.
Turning my feet out, keeping up on my toes, and just improving all of my technique. It's different than typical styles of dance as we keep our arms by our side, but at the same time, we do have show styles as well that really allow you to have that emotion in it.
Her eyes are set on the 2025 World Championships in Ireland, after coming up just short this year.
I ended up coming 11th in the world, which was something that I was so grateful for. I also had the honor of winning the soft shoe round at the World Championships, which was a dream come true for me. It's something that I dreamed of since I was a little girl.
And Faith's mom can attest to the amount of work she puts in to perfect her routine.
It's this inner fire that she has. Going out on a stage, being able to stand there and perform like that, it takes a lot of confidence. And in addition, this of the athleticism, it is unreal what these dancers can do.
For Faith, it's simply her love of competitive Irish dance.
It's just how it makes me feel. When I'm dancing, I just really feel so free and like I'm flying. And I've also met some of my best friends, and it's just like a dream come true to be able to do it and do it across the world.
News and Night is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices, plus on-demand weather forecasts. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
It's really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer designing and building parts that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.